In this one, it's the Renegades and the Brahmas. San Antonio, the 3.5-point home favorite. Total sitting at 46 in this one. Brahmas won the first meeting 25-15. Forecast does not apply. It is our third out of 4 games this weekend indoors. So let's take a look at the Renegades offense. I know we caught up with Sal Cannella, so I want to start with them. They seem to be such an anomaly, and really on every level of football that you might look at. You don't often see a team that's top 2 in total offense, passing offense, third down offense, completion percentage, turnover margin, really all of it. I mean, some of those, they even lead the league in those categories, but still go 1-6. You just never see that. And you could say, oh, the numbers are now overinflated because they had Memphis last week. But listen, everyone has played Memphis this year, except, funny enough, DC. Can't wait till that. We can shoot up to number 1 on the stat board in every category once we get to drop 100 points on Memphis. I mean, Birmingham got to play them twice. Maybe that's why their stats are so inflated. But it is important to mention, something came out today. Holt Nailers, the quarterback 3 for Arlington, has his own podcast that has had some pretty interesting takes on it this season. And I saw a clip where he said that he might play down the stretch, and the coaching staff has kind of taken a different stance now that they're out of the playoffs. And he specifically was targeting Week 10 against DC, telling ECU fans where he went to college to come out to that game and see some of the Pirates on this roster. So, yeah, I'm interested in that to see if other teams will maybe do the same thing with some of their backups. I don't think it's going to happen this week, but don't be surprised to see Holt Nailers and maybe some Lindsey Scott Jr. as well in this offense. I don't expect Bob Stoops to rest anybody here, though, against San Antonio. There's some bad blood in this rivalry. It dates all the way back to last year with them going up against Wade Phillips and A.J. Smith and some of the comments that were made earlier this year. We mentioned to Sal, Arlington threw for the most yards that anybody has on San Antonio's defense all season. I think that's important. Defensively for the Brahmas, we have yet to see an injury report from this game, so it's really just been really hard to try to handicap this whole slate with lines coming out late and missing injury reports and trying to scramble for information. But hopefully we get some depth charts tonight. I do give slight edge to the Renegades offense here, even though the San Antonio D is getting healthier. I love Javonte Payton. I think this is a home run NFL guy if you can get him on a roster. I mean, Luis Perez completed 85% of his passes last week, and Peyton just has so much to do with that. Even in week 1, when they played against the Stallions, he was 10 yards behind the defense on a go route, and Perez just couldn't get it to him. He underthrew him, and Mark Gilbert ended up picking that one off. But I would love to just isolate film on Javonte Payton and just watch this guy burn. He did it last year. He was a huge part of the XFL championship run. He did it at Tennessee when he was in college. I just like Javonte Payton is just a solid receiver, and I think he can make for a good addition to at least an NFL practice squad. And then you see guys like Sal Cannella, who was quiet early in the year. Now he's getting going. Deontay Burnett, a good piece in this offense going up against his old staff from Houston. Tyler Vaughn's, right? Really deep receiving core. And you add Davion Smith, who has been a no-show the entire season, goes off against Memphis, now has his wheels under him, has some confidence to establish that run game. By no means do I think the Arlington offense is going to have the success against San Antonio that they had against Memphis, but I'm liking what I'm seeing so far out of this unit in Chuck Long. Flipping sides of the ball here, it feels like we have quarterback questions really everywhere across the UFL this week. And I figured A.J. Smith would be at the top of that list as he would be faced with a lot of questions on his quarterback, right? Kevin Hogan came in for that fourth quarter comeback against Houston. But we've heard some comments now from Wade Phillips and media. They kind of doubled down on Quentin Dormady and said Dormady is comfortable with the offense and knows what he's doing out there, and we're comfortable with him as our starting quarterback. So, you know, that's interesting to me because he tossed 3 picks against the Arlington defense in week 5. he has struggled mightily in his last 3 games. 127 pass yards per game in those 3, completing just 56% of his attempts and 5 picks. So I don't know how confident I would be in Dormady here, but the good news for Brahmas fans and for this offense, you're now back inside at home. Each of those last 3 starts that we just referenced for Dormady were away from home, outside in some terrible weather conditions that they had to deal with. And I don't want to make, chalk it all up to that, but I think that it will help to get back on that Alamo Dome turf where they're a lot faster. In the last meeting against these two was the John Lovett show. I assume it could very well turn into that again, although I expect Arlington's defense to be more prepared for Lovett the second time around, where if it becomes a one-dimensional game where the Brahmas can only run the ball, I don't think that's what's going to beat Arlington like it did last time. The Brahmas have had a few games now, even back to week 2, where they haven't scored until the 4th quarter. They cannot afford to do that this week if they're looking to make the playoffs. They have got to score early on. Got to get Jontre Kirkland and Speedy Stevenson and Justin Smith back going. You think back to week 4 when they played against Michigan and Kirkland and Smith both had 100-yard games. They have not been able to replicate that at all since then. So, the Renegades can get to 22, 24 points here. So San Antonio's going to have to score. You don't want to have to rely on Cody Latimer to bail you out constantly in these situations, right? Clutch Cody, always coming up with a play, that 3-point conversion, that touchdown at the end of the game, always coming up with the huge plays as a veteran. You don't want to have to rely on him bailing you out every single game. It's been a rough go for this air raid lately, and is this sort of the same drop-off from A.J. Smith that we saw last year in XFL 2023 with the Houston Roughnecks, where they came out high-flying? Yeah, I think they got to 5-0, 6-0. They were dominating through the air, and then everything just fell apart. Brandon Silvers looked disastrous in down the stretch last year. So I see a lot of parallels. You had Cole McDonald coming in this offense last year. Now you have Kevin Hogan with Quentin Dormady, kind of like you hear the footsteps as a starting quarterback. And I don't know. I do have faith that the Brahmas can probably get back on track. They did have a positive. Last week they hit 6 pass plays of over 15 yards, so they got some of the explosives back, but they just kept turning it over in the red zone. So you think some of that fumble luck will maybe start to go their way. Edge of the Brahmas offense here, I think they bounce back from those road struggles. And the pick for me is going to be San Antonio, which pains me because in this situation I think San Antonio goes to 6-2, but DC would still win at 4-4, giving them an outside shot. Brahmas coming up after this, Birmingham and St. Louis. Interesting schedule. Who you got here, Zook?
This one was tough.
Oh, I know who you're picking now just based on you saying that. Because it wouldn't be hard for you to pick the Brahmas.
No, it wouldn't be.
Not the Renegades.
I'm taking the Renegades. I am.